Thank you very much. Would like to answer any questions that you may have.
Yep. I have a question. Texas has a very high sales tax and very high property taxes, but they're a state that has no state income tax. And the voters have voted down a state income tax like 2 or 3 times. And I think the voters see this problem is that if the state government is allowed to also then have a state income tax, the politicians will not lower the sales tax and the property taxes. They'll just have more revenue with which to draw from, and the poor and the middle income will end up paying even more taxes. It's like the voters don't trust the politicians to, in turn, lower the
well, I think it's probably quite reasonable to say you shouldn't trust somebody that gave you a tax system this bad. But that doesn't mean you can't fix it. I mean, states that have more progressive systems do not, by any measure, necessarily have high taxes. Lowest tax states in the country, and it has one of the most progressive systems. They just happen to be the opposite of Texas. They have lots of income taxes, hardly any sales taxes. And I mean, if I lived in Texas, unless I was Ross Perot or somebody up there at the top, it seems to me that I should be putting the pressure on my legislators to lower the sales taxes dramatically and institute an income tax. Now, would I want them to do it at the same time? Sure. But you could do that.
Since you're talking about what would happen if a greater burden is shifted to the states, how good is the federal tax system right now?
Well, the federal income tax, which is what pays for the programs that they're talking about shifting generally, is quite progressive. You know, it exempts the first $16,000 or $17,000 for a family of 4. The rates gradually go up, so eventually at $300,000 or $400,000 in income, they hit 40%. They have low-income credits that make sure that the working poor don't have to pay and, in fact, get a refund. The federal system's good. And that, of course, is probably one of the reasons that people want to devolve responsibilities to the states, because it means they can cut taxes for the rich at the federal level and raise them on the middle class in the states. A little frightening, but I think that probably is behind it to some degree.
The sales and excise tax are naturally going to be regressive just because smaller income families have less, it takes a bigger bite out of their income. So are you just suggesting that income taxes should be more progressive to offset that?
Yes. States should rely more on income taxes, and their income taxes should be more progressive. You need both. You know, New Hampshire has a really progressive income tax. Unfortunately, it only applies to interest and dividends, so it doesn't collect any money. So it doesn't do any good in offsetting their other taxes. So you need a robust, progressive income tax. If you have one, then you don't have to rely so heavily on sales taxes. Some states rely almost not at all on sales taxes, and they still manage to run their governments pretty well.
Doesn't that chart show they already have a progressive income tax?
Well, that's the average for all states. The progressive income tax in Washington, as you can see, doesn't show up because they got no income tax at all. And income taxes vary quite widely among the states. Of course, it's detailed here in the report, but they range from income taxes in places like California, which is very progressive, to places like Alabama at the other extreme, where their income tax, they really had to work at it, is actually a little regressive. But they went to great lengths to get that result. It's hard to do. Oh, great. We were just so clear, so complete, that we're done. Thank you very much for coming.